Welcome, Black Hollywood Live fans. On tonight's Queen Sugar Aftershow, we talk episode All Good with writer Kay O'Hagan. Stay tuned for more. Welcome, Black Hollywood Live fans. You are watching the after show for Queen Sugar. We have a special guest with us, Kay O'Hagan. My name is Shaka Smith. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Shaka Strong.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your girl, Kels. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at The Urban Gypsy LA.
Hey, it's Anjy. You can find me on Twitter at Anjy_Scates. And Kay, where can we find you?
On Twitter at KOYEGUN.
Well,
I will spell it out because Nigerian.
well, we want to thank you for joining us. This is so special for us. Like, it's always great to get the actors on, but now we're really getting to the brain, the writers. Yeah. Where do the words come from? You know. Oh yeah, this was a really cool episode. Like, it was called All Good, and it really was all good.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we were all sitting at the edge of our seat waiting for the other two to drop.
And we're so used to breaking people's
Crying all day.
We were trying to get ourselves ready for it. We're like,
Yes.
when is it going to happen?
Bracing for impact.
What did you guys think of the tone of this episode?
I thought it was all good. And I liked that we saw a lighter dynamic between Micah and Charlie. And I even liked the siblings dynamic in this one. They seem to be gelling a lot and kind of just leaning on each other and complimenting each other's efforts and energy. And that was pretty consistent, I think, throughout even Darla and Ralph Angel.
Yeah.
It was good.
I agree with that. I feel like we've dealt with a lot of turmoil and tension between all of them, so it felt good to see the other side of that in the relationship. Like, there's both sides in the sibling relationship, so it felt good to see.
No.
Okay, it felt good to see that side. There were still moments where, like, the dialogue still had me in my feelings, probably because of things I'm going through personally, like when Aunt Vi was talking to Charlie, or even the scene with Charlie and Nova. Like, I was kind of in my feelings still, so they still kept me in my feelings, but it was a different vibe for sure.
Was that like a conscious choice by the writers? Because I know around like episode 7 or 8, we were all kind of like, we have to be ready for a heavy show every week, Was it a conscious decision to say, hey,
I mean, even in the room, it got really...
Oh, I think we have a problem with your mic, so we'll plug that bad boy in.
Are we good?
Let's see, hold on.
We got to hear what Kay got to say.
I know I'd be the one to come out here and ruin it.
Let's talk into this mic here.
Praise God. But it's true, the mic is just by itself. I'm like, busy talking to it like it's doing something. But no, I think even in the room, like, we kind of wanted to, we were getting, we're all emotionally invested in the characters.
Right.
We're emotionally invested in the world. We're doing research. We're having conversations, and things got really, really heavy and really, really intense while we were breaking story. And for that reason, he's about to come do it. And for that reason, we felt that we also wanted to take this journey with these characters and see them explore Black joy. I think that, what we've done is show the reality of what these characters are going through and exploring the depth of their pain, the depth of their sorrow, and the things that they're experiencing are very, very real and organic to the world. But in our lives, we do like to enjoy one another. You know what I mean? We do, like, the feeling of a warm hug and, like, the feeling of, like, being embraced by someone you care about. It was an episode that I found incredibly romantic, and I was just like, I want it. And so it was just, I feel like, we finally get to a place where, Charlie is ready to embrace Remy after playing that relationship so realistically through the course of 11 episodes. Getting to a place where Ralph Angel, instead of, he slept with Darla in episode 3, and then in this episode, it's like, we're coming together as parents. We're coming together as people. We're like a team.
Right.
So it's like my heart is, whatever was going on in my heart can actually be open to you now. And so it was just, so we kind of in the room wanted to see that other side of them, explore that. And it felt like the right time to do that as we're sort of pushing the story forward to what we're going to see in 13 and then kick off for season 2.
Yeah, it was my first time being so deep with Ralph Angel and Darla. Like I said, it was the first time I rooted for them as like almost a couple off screen. It's how deep I felt the connection was, And I think we got that with this episode and that tonality. But with Davis and Charlie, we know that's been a source of contention for us here on the after show. But it looks like we may have gotten some progress with Remy and the whole Micah walking in and that situation blowing up. What did you guys think of those dynamics?
Well, I think rightfully so, Micah was pissed when he first saw them kissing. But I think after him thinking about it and then talking to Nova, and probably had some off-screen conversations with Kiki too, I'm sure. Like he came around, and then we see him in the last scene giving her his blessing, pretty much go like, what? Okay, and she
which was good because we see that Charlie had more of a glow to me this episode. Like she was starting to release. She looked regal and beautiful, and so the only thing that seemed like it was holding her back at this point was Micah's approval. Excuse me. So that was good when he gave her the go ahead. It's like, okay, cool. You know, she needed that.
But yeah, I for me, I'm still kind of pushing for a Charlie Davis reunion. And we see when she takes out that, I guess her name was printed and it said the West on it. Mm-hmm. And she looks at it and she puts the ring on. Is she still really very tied to Davis? Has she moved on?
She says she is the CEO of the product Davis West.
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
So we've talked about this. Marriage is a business, and she is very much a businesswoman. I'd like to hear you weigh in on that.
I mean, the thing that's crazy about it, in this episode, we get to see what Charlie, how she like qualifies herself, right? Like we've all been saying Bordelon West, all the for these last couple of episodes. This is the first time that she's seen, or at least had to acknowledge the West alone and the Bordelon alone, and starting to separate those two by filing for the divorce. Right. And it's like, but the world still sees her as Charlie, West. And so from the people calling her about Davis's leaving the team, to the name and the invitation, to meeting Frank Rovner, the head of the Stingers, like people acknowledge her as this woman. So it's like while she's come down to St. Joe and she's like keeping her head down, you're still who you are, ma'am. Like you can't escape it. And so I think she acknowledged that title, and for that reason adhere to expectations by putting that that ring on. Like I'm going into public, I have to be this person. Nobody can know I'm getting divorced. Like
Maybe that's how I feel too. Because when I saw your prediction basically come to life, she's pulling back out the ring and playing with it. I'm like, no.
I mean, we don't know where that's going to go.
Right.
But it's like for the interpretation for this one,
because when she was talking to Rovner, you can see like she had her businesswoman hat on. It's like, okay, well, my money is still tied to him. We might have financial issues going on with the farm, so I might need him to keep that money in and bringing it in, because we got to go to war with these. What are their names? The Landrys and Boudreaux. Yeah.
Well, I hope she goes back to Davis, but
I mean, she took the ring off. The ring was off. I don't get that.
At the diner, it wasn't on though, Shaka.
That's my other point. We do know she's serious about Remy, and you're serious when you decide I'm going to do some African rituals to see if I can.
That was one of my favorite scenes, though.
Yeah, it made me cry.
It was so. What do you guys think about the scene? Would you take it seriously as you?
Yes. I think that African religions and traditions don't get enough play, especially in media. And considering our history as African people, I think this was it's looked at, it has a negative slant, and it's not negative. It just really depends on your perspective. And when have you ever seen Black women doing a ritual to Oshun on a platform like this?
Yeah, and have it be a positive thing.
Right. She's an African deity, love, goddess of love. Like we need more of that.
In my real life, my sister has had to have me laid out and do some rituals on me.
Not this sister. We got another one. And she reminds me of Nova.
She does. She reminds me of Nova, and I've had some issues where like had some energy stuck, and she had to come and do some things on me. So that's why that moment was emotional for me, because I'm like, well, I was Charlie for different reasons, Yeah. So it's real. Yeah, I loved it.
I like that they did it in a positive light. Well, the minute I saw it, because normally when you see that imagery, it's always negative. I was like, oh, she's into voodoo. Like that was my immediate thing. It was going to go negative. It went so positive. But I think I would take it not seriously, but I I always honor, I guess, that intention of what's taking place. Because I think
what it has to
maybe if I don't believe what you're saying, but I believe in the
intention.
And the
energy.
product of it.
Right.
Yeah. So, but I thought it was real interesting because it kind of it hit me out of.
I've been waiting for it,
nowhere.
honestly, because we keep hearing about Nova's mother and and her mother was. They keep bringing her up, and when she's a priestess. So I'm like, I've been waiting for it. So I loved it.
I think I expected to see it more like episode 1 or 2.
Me too.
You know? And
I like that it took time.
Yeah, we finally got there. And so we had a little bit of an issue with getting this cane. And now this plan to go to different parishes. And what did you guys think about it? Because I just love the self-reliance that especially Charlie shows in that particular scene, but throughout the episode.
I like the fact that Ralph Angel was there backing her up as well. They really came together as a family, and they're going to need to stay together as a family to fight this force. But it just plays out so much of how real life plays out. Like, you have so much stacked up against you, and you have people purposefully trying to keep you from pushing through these barriers. And to be so adamant about, like, we ain't going nowhere. Like, that gives me hope. For my own life situation.
Right.
Yeah.
I love watching it. I love seeing their dynamics and how they each respond to it. Like how Charlie keeps her composure. She doesn't even barely frown. She just gives like that stern look. And then Ralph Angel is like attack mode. She grabs him. I just love that dynamic. I'm like, ooh, I think I'm Ralph Angel right here.
Most definitely.
And didn't he seem to have a confidence about him? Or he's speaking, but he's not nervous to speak. He's confident in the things he's saying.
Yeah.
When you're writing that, was that like a deliberate, okay, here's where he breaks out as a man?
From early on, I think the thing that we always wanted to say was like Ralph Angel's superpower is his vulnerability, but his superpower is his love for the farm and his acumen for the farm. I think when he doesn't know something because it's something that was so precious to his father, he'll do the research, he'll do the work. And so we always wanted to surprise ourselves. Like we all were like, we could own a farm now. Like the things that we learned and the details, we tried not to like nerd out in the script. There were times in this episode where I was just like, oh my gosh, I love all this farm stuff. But like I think one of the things that we wanted to give him was a sense of agency, was a sense of confidence, because it's like you're not gonna mess with Ralph Angel on the stuff with the farm. Right. Like he understands it. He learned from his lesson, and now like he's like on point about it. So I think we wanted to make sure that all of them had the language to speak to the reality of what farmers in Louisiana and across the South are going through. And so those moments might feel like a lot of information, but it was something that is so relevant to their world. And for Ralph Angel to be someone who grew up there, who tasted the soil, basically, that's something that he would know.
Okay, so take us into that process. What is the writing process like? So how does it happen?
Go into the writing room.
No. So we started. We had the script. Ava sent. We all read the pilot that Ava beautifully crafted and wrote. We got the book. We had our meeting with Ava, and she was so incredibly clear, and her vision is just so crisp. And what she wanted to do as far as culturally, what she wanted to do as far as socially, she was just so, aware of it. And there is an emotional, spiritual quality to the way she creates. And that was something that she wanted to sort of have in the room at all times. And we had her co-showrunner, Melissa Carter, who is, my work wife. Like I'm obsessed with her. And she's also, and like she had a very similar kind of, energy and wisdom. And that was sort of what we brought to the room. So there were 6 of us in the room. We broke out all 12 episodes. We sort of put a tent pole for each of them. Like we knew, okay, we wanted to have form here. How can we ramp up to that? I can tell you honestly, for this show, we beat out 1,000 million different ideas and different, forms and shapes. Every single script was a completely different version before, we came down to the final thing. And it was such an organic, moving process. And I think I learned, this was like grad school for me. I learned so much about problem solving. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, this scene no longer works. How can we move this? We dropped this actor here. We now have 3 days to shoot that. We now lost that location. It's like you're always thinking on your feet. And so, but with that said, you also have to keep your emotional storylines going. You have to track your characters. And so we would break the stories together. We would all pitch out ideas, crazy stuff. He grabs a gun. their dead body isn't a thing. I read this article yesterday. Philando Castillo was murdered. Like, we would just like throw out, stuff that was going on in our lives. And we had such a, Ava and Melissa created this environment where we all felt so comfortable to cry and talk and yell. I remember when Prince died, we all like danced for like the rest of the night. We didn't even bother breaking story. We just danced in the room. And so it's just like, we truly became like a family in creating these stories. So we would break them out. We would put them on, Melissa had this strategy of doing magnetic boards. So we would do magnetic boards. Each character, Nova was orange, Ralph Angel was blue, Charlie was green, Violet was violet, Hollywood was brown. I'm like remembering all our other characters were like black. And so we would sort of break out each character. Then the writer of the episode would go off and write a story document. And then we would edit that. Then a writer would go off and write the outline. We would send the outline to the studio. Studio would give notes. We would go back and change it. And then we would sort of go through that process. And then you do a first crack at your first draft. And then, it becomes it's a very technical skill, and we are all emotional, but only in the breaking part of it. After we get down to the page, it really just becomes work. So it's like all the crying you did earlier. And like, so for us watching a lot of those moments, like thinking about things like episode 8 and understanding all the production that had to go into it, we're all emotionally invested in it, but we're also like, yo, that day was crazy. Or remember when that dialogue was not there before? Like, so it's like, there's so many moving pieces and there's so many people involved, and I think Queen Sugar has literally the best crew on the face of the planet. Like we shot in Louisiana, and like going down there and being with the directors and being with the crew, it was just like life. Come on.
Everyone said that. It was like a huge family.
Everybody
and it brings across the screen, like you can feel it.
It's dope. I like.
And then for me, the amount of research. So Ava says, I want you guys to look at these different issues, but they're all like serious, like in-depth mass incarceration. What? I have to go do a treatise now and then come and write this episode? How did you guys balance that?
I think so everyone felt this level of ownership. Like my background, I was a journalist for 4 years. I worked for Nightly News with Brian Williams and then Today Show. And that was part of my foray in. So for me, everyone took a character that they sort of like locked into. So it's like for Nova, a lot of her, a lot of Nova was coming out of a particular place. And so the research was inherent. Like there were two of us that were sort of like the research people. It was myself and another writer, Denise Harkavy. We were sort of like the research grunts in a sense. And so we would compile data, do phone interviews with different people down in Louisiana. We would talk to public defenders. We would talk to lawyers. We would have conversations with people. And like Ava would bring in experts and stuff like that. And we would engage and sort of get down information. And so what we wanted to do is, we wanted to talk about these big things like mass incarceration. We wanted to talk about, the H-2-1 visas situation and the path to citizenship in this country, which no one is really having, a conversation about. Yeah, we wanted to talk about rape culture, but we wanted to do all of those macro things on a very micro level. And one of the things that I loved about the way Ava set up, what we were trying to do is we wanted to earn every single thing. In any other show, the first 3 episodes, we always say the first 3 episodes would have been one episode. You would have the death of the father, the funeral preparation, and then the burial, all in one episode. But for this show, we wanted you to sort of feel and be in those spaces so that when Remy and Charlie finally get together, it's not this gratuitous moment. It's one that you're like, finally, Jesus Christ.
We worked for this.
Yeah, it's like you feel like, but at that point, you get why he cares about her. You get why she cares about her. I feel like we watch so many shows where we're just like, they're both attractive, so I guess they're going to get it on. But it's like, in this world, we're like, everyone's attractive. So it's like, what's what binds you, what connects you, and we want you to be able to feel like you look at them and you're like, there's so much backstory here, and everything that they say is so like laden and
mission accomplished.
I'm like,
so awesome.
I mean, bow down. Ava and Miss Winfrey just sort of set the tone and set the stage for everything that we did, and we were just like, kids in a candy store. I was the only one who was not married. Like everybody was just like grown and like living their truest selves. And I'm just like, a little kid, just like, guys, Black Lives Matter. Like, it's like, did you go to that rally? They're like, hey, we have children. Like, it's like, okay, fine.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
I would love to be on that set, right? Well, With this episode, we did have some moments that weren't all good, and I think hopefully we'll see what happens in the future. But we had Darla and Miss Velez. They didn't get into it. I want to say they got into it, but they didn't. It was just the eyes, What did you guys think about that tension?
I think Miss Velez was just reading the whole situation.
Yeah,
She's like, what's going on? I see that hand at the small of her back. So are you guys just co-parenting or are you guys getting back together?
Yeah.
She was like, I didn't know Blue had a new babysitter.
Yeah.
Like, whoa. and Darla was like asserting herself, no, I'm the mom. Call me if something pops off or goes wrong. Like, call me. I'm a parent in this situation. And she is sizing her up like,
and she gave... And she
respected it, yeah.
She has to.
I would say I love that they played that truth because in a lot of times you watch shows like other shows, it would have been a slap. There would have been like instant drama.
Yeah, but like in real life, it doesn't always it doesn't play out like that.
Right.
It is a look or just
Yeah.
like okay, and then you go and then you do the research
like,
like so next time you meet her, I'm gonna call you, come on in, and then I'm gonna read you again.
Yeah, and then maybe I'm gonna let you read me. Like you gonna see me looking at you.
Yeah.
I just love that tension, especially I want to see where that takes Ralph Angel because his situation with Darla is just almost too perfect. It's sitting a little too pretty.
It's like a house of cards.
Yeah,
it is. It really is.
Then we also had Too Sweet and Nova. And what do you guys think about Too Sweet? I feel uncomfortable with this character.
I do too.
Yeah, when I saw him again, I'm like, wait, who is that? I don't trust him already.
And like he comes into the diner, and I'm just like, I don't know. It's
demeanor.
just something.
But we talked earlier, and you had some insight to the demeanor.
Well, I think I love the perspective. I mean, like Too Sweet was a character that we labored over and literally cried over. I think he was probably the biggest source of pain and tears because while we were writing this, we were going through a period of time of a lot of police shootings, just like every other day, tense time, and so we wanted to say something. I think one of the biggest things about the show is like we have a lot of intention with everything we were doing, and so Too Sweet sort of represents, this black male, actually black child, who is looked at as a man, and who is sort of stuck within a system that feels like there's no way out. It's like that sort of like choking, strangling kind of feeling, and we wanted to explore mass incarceration. We wanted to explore the punitive, justice system, and we wanted to also look at public defenders and see what that's like, especially in Louisiana, that has been sort of like gutted significantly. And so, but with Too Sweet, what I was saying earlier was just like you have a kid who was put in prison at he's a teenager who was put in prison for something he didn't do. Then he's out of prison, praise God for Nova, then put in a shelter, and then feeling stifled and nowhere to go, he ends up on the street. And so when he comes back into Nova's life in this episode and, things to explore, there's a level of PTSD. You know what I mean? He's kind of like a caged animal that's finally getting, love and attention. And, that like, when Nova says to him, like, there's life here and there's life here. It's like, that's something that so many of our black boys who have been marginalized to the point where they're not a part of society don't understand that there's life here and there's life here. And so Too Sweet is kind of like our way to say to that young black boy, like, we care. You know what I mean? It's like they might not care and the system might be set up truly for you to fail, but we care. And so I think that was kind of, Too Sweet is he's polarizing. He's polarizing. I'm not going to say he's not. But it's just, that level of PTSD and trauma that he's experiencing is one that Nova is so sensitive to.
Yeah, I mean, I got a little bit, for me, the mindset, because they've raised issues about mass incarceration, but what the problems with the system. But hearing Too Sweet talk about, I'm just going to go back because people have been in jail. Everyone I know have been in and out their entire life. That got into the mindset to me of someone who's just, that's all they can see for themselves.
Right.
And that was like the bleakest part about it. But for the PTSD, what I'm not seeing is the anger from Too Sweet. And that's what makes
We got 2 more episodes.
Yeah. Okay, I was gonna say that's what makes his whole demeanor sketchy to me. Where I'm like, I don't understand you. Like, why aren't you angry about this or something?
I think it's a mirror reflection sometimes of how young black men or boys are perceived too after going through the system and coming out, and just like how we don't trust them. Like, does the world trust them? You know, like where do they go? Like, you know?
Right. No, I agree. Like, because at one point I was even mad at Nova for giving the money towards Too Sweet, because I'm like, well, Ralph Angel needs your help, and I'm like choosing sides. So now that I see her and he's out, I'm like, oh, thank God Nova did that. Like, who would have done that for him? But then now when you bring up the PTSD, when he came in and went to the restroom, I'm like, what's he doing? He's sketchy. But now that you say that, I'm like, okay, he just came into this room full of all these people who are like, hey, and he's not used to that. So he probably needed to step away to, like, kind of recompose himself. So I didn't even think about it like that. I'm just thinking like, and if I would have been in that room, I'm like, what he going to the bathroom? What he doing? You know,
like the suspicion, the automatic suspicion,
so
where then he would sort of like close back up.
Right.
You know what I mean? And, you know, our Bordelons are shockingly open.
Yeah.
They sort of live quite out loud.
Yes.
Which is sort of the best and worst of us.
Yes.
Well, and then again in that scene, I guess it's precipitated by Vi reopening the restaurant. And I love the little new step she's got. You know, she's got a little, you know, thing in her step. What do you guys think about her and this new reopening?
I like it. What she got, it's gonna be the turn up spot, and I think she needs something to focus on besides the family, something that is her own.
Well,
you know,
she's got Hollywood. She's not.
Well, she
focusing
got
on
Hollywood, but he's working on the rig, so
she needs to learn his lesson.
Yeah, but she also needs her own thing outside of that. Like, she's not just a romantic partner; she's a full woman, and you know. And I think that this gives her an opportunity to kind of just explore that aspect of herself. And I'm proud of her.
Yes, and I'm enjoying just watching her enjoy what she does. So she's not just going to work. Like, she's going and she loves to do it. She loves the people. And so it just makes you feel good.
And she got on my favorite wig. And
little animal print dress.
I love how well she's written as an older Black female.
Yes.
How did you guys address giving life to characters of different walks of life?
I mean, like, each of the so for Violet specifically, that is all, you know, Ava fashioned her out of her mom, and that is all Ava's mom, 100%. A beautiful woman of a certain age who lives life and loves hard, and so, you know, having that mandate as, you know, as that kind of character that we're building towards, for a lot of us who have, like, my mom is like that, my aunts are like that, and it's like we rarely get to see, you know, women that we love and look up to, you know, be like that and be in that space, and you know, they always have an answer, and they're not perfect, they're figuring it out, you know, as well. And you know, the thing that I loved about Vi was sort of seeing her come from a place where she was so broken after her brother died to a place where she was so broken because of her relationship, you know, was pulled out from under her, to a place where she's finally standing on her own in her, you know, late 50s, early 60s. Like, she's a grown up and she's finally finding her voice. You know, there were a lot of things that we talked about with Vi, which was like going back to school and, like, you know, and you know, being the bookkeeper for the family and, like, different stuff like that. But it was like, well, Shorty has this thing that she loves. She loves taking care of people. So it's like the best place for her to do that is in you know, in this high yellow where she already loves and where she already, you know, feels at home. And so writing for her is so much fun because it's like we always get to be our, like, wittiest, our, you know, our funniest versions, and, like, sometimes you'll be, like, you know, in the office, like, we had our offices next to each other, and we would just be cracking up, and somebody was like, they're writing for Vi. Like, it's like you're just like, you've become a crazy person. Like, you're hearing her, like, she would definitely say, like, well, Jesus turned water into wine. So, like, you know, like, it's like you just sort of, like, you become, you know, a grown Black woman, like, in your head. Well, there's a writer in the room, Anthony Sparks, who we called Aunt Vi because there's so much of him from South Side of Chicago. Like, he was just, like, so I love you, Anthony. He was so Aunt Vi all the time. Like, he would just always be like that, like, in his personal regular interactions, you know, life. And so writing for her was just such a joy. I think, you know, all of them have such distinct voices. And when you have those voices swirling in your head, there are times that we would just start in the room just being them. Like, we would get into arguments and conversations, and, like, I would all of a sudden be Nova, and then, like, Melissa would be Charlie, and then Ralph Angel would be Jason, and we would just sort of, like, go at it, and that would be, you know, episode 8. You know what I mean? Or then, you know, that would. It's creepy as hell. Like, I would never recommend anyone try it. But it's just like you get so invested in these conversations because I know that I've watched this show and I know that you love Davis.
Yeah.
And one of our writers, Jason Wilborn, loves Davis.
Really?
And he is Davis. And like in episode 3 where they were having that argument outside with him and Charlie, and he finally confesses to Charlie, like you should have seen Jason pitching that scene. Like it was so funny. He was like, I fucking said I'm sorry. I'm like, it's like, you know, you become an actor. You get so incensed with it. And I was like, he broke my heart. Like it was so, it's like, it gets weird. It gets creepy. They're not every room. I'm in a room right now where it's calmer, more sane, but it used to get weird.
Hopefully we can get some insight for season 2. We're going to do our predictions. We'll go ahead and do our predictions. And then I guess, to what extent you can do your predictions of how you'd like to see the characters develop as a writer. So we'll start with you.
Okay, so I think we are going to keep seeing Charlie play with that wedding ring, but I don't think she's trying to get back with Wes. But I think she might get caught up, like maybe Remy's going to catch her wearing it or something, and she's going to have some explaining to do. What else? Shoot. I know I have more.
Well, we got the Boudreaux
Ralph,
too.
Yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen with that. I think she's gonna leverage her relationship with Wes though to deal with that, and I feel like she's gonna come on top. I'm Team Charlie when it comes to that, so I'm gonna wish well for that. And then with Ralph, Angel, and Darla, I feel like Ralph Angel's gonna end up breaking her heart for some reason. I don't know. That's kind of what I think. I think something's going to happen with the teacher, and then she's going to feel some type of way. I don't know.
Actually, one of the fans one of our viewers predicted this last time, and I'm going to share that here. She had said that she thinks that Charlie is related to the Landry or the Boudreaux, like, because we don't know who her mom is, or they've intimated that she has a different mom. We haven't kind of really figured that out yet. So
that's
I'm
a good one.
I was like, oh, that's good. I'm gonna share that on
now.
air. Shout out to, I forget who said it, but you know who you are, girl. I'm gonna roll with that one.
Well, for me, before I said Charlie was gonna get back with Davis, I'll revise that somewhat and say she'll at least sleep with him one more time. It's been 18 years, the only man she's been with. You know, she might want one more before she moves on. And I think that would cause some trouble.
I respect it.
That to me is more of like, I could see that being a truthful situation.
Yeah.
You know, you're so invested. And we find out it's only the one person. So.
For sure.
And then I think you're going to see a showdown with the Boudreaux and Landrys.
Absolutely. For sure.
But what that showdown looks like, I don't know.
No idea.
Because I'm not sure, is it going to get violent? That's what I don't know how, because like I said, I wouldn't let him off the porch. And part of me was kidding, but the other part of me was like, in this situation, I might not have let him off the porch. We would have to figure it out right then and there.
I'm so curious to see what that would look like.
Right.
Like Deliverance? Like you just keep him in the house? Like that'd be amazing.
Until my crop is sold, you know. I should have took out my sugar. So we'll see. Now, as for you, I guess, and we'll even kind of go even on to season 2. Mm-hmm. How do you want to see these characters develop? Like, or what do you have in mind as these characters develop?
Man, I'm not on season 2. Season 2 started. I'm on This Is Us now.
I love that show too. Cool. Oh my god!
Shout out to This Is Us. But I'm on This Is Us now, so I wasn't able to go back for season 2.
Now you can give us even more.
With that said, exactly. Right. With that said, I'm so knowing where we get to. I'm so curious to see all of what you're saying. To be completely honest, to see sort of what the dynamic between the Landrys and the Boudreaux ends up sort of bringing out of the family, to see where Ralph Angel goes as a man, as a father, as someone who is finding his voice as part of the business. I'm curious to see where Nova goes. I'm like, I can't wait to tweet one of you guys after the finale just to be like, what the fuck? I'm curious to see what happens to her in season 2. I'm so emotionally invested in that character. I love every last one of them. Hollywood and Violet. I mean, even I was, fighting. There were times when I was just like, just forgive him. Like, it's like, but it's honest. It's real.
Yeah.
Like, and I think I'm just so excited to see where the writers, take those stories and take that world, and finally to sort of get the audience and everyone to know what the words Queen Sugar means. I think that's one that I'm just so proud of and excited for people to unfurl that. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Well, on that note, wow. Well, we just want to thank you so much for joining us. This has been an honor.
No, you guys are fantastic. I'm a fan, because it's like you guys, the way you analyze and dissect and truly care about stories and character and worlds, I think it's so important because you make this fun, you make this fun.
Well, you wrote us a story we could do that with.
Right.
Go team Queen Sugar.
Give us all sugar.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed tonight's episode. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. My name is Shaka Smith. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Shaka Strong.
And I'm Kelli Scates. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at The Urban Gypsy LA.
I am Anjy Scates. You can find me on Twitter at Anjy_Skates.
And Miss Kate.
And you can only find me on Twitter at KAYOYEGUN.
Yes. See you guys later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
From executives Kevin Undergaro, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live, Scipio. Instagram me at KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in.
Redefined.
The views expressed here are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.